Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European crossover webinar. And I was going to go over, well, I'll just point out the data quickly, but obviously that's not the big news. We did have some German unemployment data, and I'll get to the rest of the other data in just a little bit. Obviously, the bigger news, the big headline, certainly you saw that, is with the S&Ps, and or at least that's where we're seeing the biggest move. Let me go on and move into that quickly for you. Okay, you can see here the S&P is just ripped up here, and that's because we got the headline. Well, actually, coming out of China, confirming now that Chinese officials have spoken to the U.S. about trade. So that actually got the S&Ps taken off because, as you know, Trump had been saying since Sunday that China had made calls and all this, and the Chinese denied that. So that is not true. And so finally, as of today, or maybe late yesterday or whatever, they are now talking. Well, so like I said, so that was, today's Thursday. So let's say it was on Wednesday. See, so they had not been talking all along, unlike Trump had said. So it's not true. And now they're saying, okay, we now started talking. Okay, so that gave the market this quick pop up in here, thinking, okay, maybe we'll eventually get something done. And also, as Blake had mentioned on the Face webinar yesterday morning, beware, we could see some pops in the S&Ps due to rebalancing. We did see that yesterday. And so we're already going that direction to start with. And now we just gave an opportunity for the market to pop again, and pop it did. So that's the bigger news. We did go and see gold initially pop up and then turn around and quickly sell off. Bonds still holding up, although they're below the highs that they got to yesterday, but they're still holding up relatively well. So let's go on and move into the main screen. And with that, let's go and move right into the news. So I just mentioned that we did get German unemployment, and that came in pretty much in line. There's the Reuters poll, 5% came in at 5%. We do have Italian industrial orders. Doesn't look like they, for whatever reason, have hit the screen. I'm even looking on the Squawk. Yeah, industrial orders down 0.5 versus 1.6%. So down 0.5. I'm not sure. We haven't got the update on this side yet. Bear with me. Yeah, oh yeah, we do have. I don't know why I was looking on the poll side. I don't know why, but yeah, we already had the data here. Down 0.9 on the industrial orders. At the top of the hour, up top of this next hour, we do have Eurozone business climate and economic sentiment, as well as in services sentiment. And then at 8 a.m. Eastern, we do have CPI out of Germany. And then on the U.S., we do have GDP along with initial jobless claims, but that would be GDP, second quarter GDP. Bear with me. Retail inventories. Do have Canadian current account balances, and we do have pending homes index at 10 a.m. Eastern. Let's go on and take a look at the indices. Not indices, the currencies. The euro continues to remain weak down here. Here's the euro on the daily. We've been talking about this. It has not been able to move. I mean, we came into a little bit of support here. You can see that 1075, but there's no movement up there. And that's why the buys chart support yesterday we had was at 1053, because I think you could easily quickly slide further down. And right now it's this market can't get a lift to save its life, and we'll see what happens. But certainly, like I said, open to further downside. We did see the Canadian dollar come off here, the dollar CAD. We were up here almost close to 33.20. Obviously, with stocks moving higher, generally that'll go and move the dollar CAD going lower, and we did go and quickly come off about, what, 25 pips. Still just working just a hair bit lower. Cable continues to remain weak here. We did see a pop up yesterday. I thought this was important. It's 22.54. I tried to sell it up there, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to get in there. It missed me by a couple of pips. Looking here with the peso, we did see a pop up here in the peso. Let me go in and go over this quickly. We saw this pop up in here. We had some good resistance at this 2021, not good resistance, but a level. Argentina had their issue here and really put the emerging currencies under some pressure, and you saw that realized here with the dollar peso. But we've come off just a bit, not a whole lot, but we've come off just a bit here, and the Aussie dollar has continued to weaken, as has the New Zealand dollar. The New Zealand dollar, I should say the Kiwi, also took new lows down here, took a dip down here. We've come off of these, but still, nonetheless, continue to remain weaker. And let's just go on and hit the news. Once again, it's the last 2 days of August. As far as trading continues, we're very slow. And I'll tell you what, I've kept it very tight. Other than the trade yesterday had with gold, I'm just not. I just don't like the movement here. I'm glad I haven't done anything with the euro, and I haven't really seen anything of any substance. I did try and jump in here, as I said, with cable. Missed my limit by a couple of pips, and that's about it. But anyway, let's go and move into the news. Once again, like I said, it's the end of the month, very quiet trading. I'm not sure if the euro is going to turn around and come apart on the last 2 days of August, but maybe next week we'll start to see something different. Morning bid. Bears make themselves all at home. All the bears are here. Are the bears here to stay? The Russian government bonds accelerated on Wednesday. Yields on 30-year Treasury and 10-year government bonds reached record lows of 190.5% and minus 71.6%, respectively. The entire French yield curve turned negative, and the U.S. 10-year curve stayed inverted. Yields are those lows. Yields are off those lows this morning, but Wall Street is indicated to open lower. A Pan-Asian equity index, excluding Japan, fell 0.3%. Chinese and Korean shares tumbled 0.4%. Along with everything else is going wrong for the world markets, we also have the prospect of an Argentine debt default. That's what I was mentioning. The country's treasury minister announced that Buenos Aires will seek to reprofile some of its debt. The bonds were already trading around 45 cents in the dollar, so that may not come as a huge shock, but a default is a default, and its consequences are being felt. More on that further down. Other pieces of the news: Trump's administration made official its 5% tariff on $300 billion on Chinese imports, but well, we did see the headlines. They're talking. That is bad news for shares in the U.S. retailers. A long-term fear that the levy will affect items such as smartwatches and Bluetooth headphones. Popular Christmas purchases will threaten U.S. consumption. But the S&P stands just 5% off of July's record highs. Possible solace is being taken from the sight of central banks riding to the rescue. Federal Reserve and European central banks are expected to cut rates next month, and the Bank of Japan might join them. Then there's Brexit. The pound is keeping its head above 122 after slumping 61 tenths the day before, when Prime Minister Boris Johnson decided to suspend Britain's parliament for more than a month before Brexit. Investors are now waiting to see if the opposition can do anything when the parliament reopens. But the fact remains that the no-deal Brexit became more probable yesterday. Deutsche Bank now sees it as a 50% chance of a no deal. Remember when Deutsche Bank had it, I think it was around 15%. Let's go and move on here. Here's the key news. Back to Argentina. Bonds are not yet trading, but further downside might be limited given where the debt was trading already. It's also likely that the contagion in other emerging markets will be limited for now unless things get messy. The peso is unlikely to take a further beating when trading begins later, forcing the central bank to dig further into its meager reserves to save the currency. We'll get more clues on the state of the world growth today. German unemployment numbers are likely to stay near historic lows, underscoring why the government remains reluctant to implement fiscal stimulus, but preliminary figures may show headline inflation falling from 1.7 to 1.5%. That would only add to the conviction that the ECB needs to act imaginatively. The United States will report the latest revisions to second quarter GDP, possibly lowering it slightly. Any good news out there? Tying good 10-year yields are hovering around 1% after falling on Wednesday to record lows below that. On optimism, the new government comprising five-star Democratic Party would be formed. Some of that reckon the new government made of vastly different parties just puts off the crisis for a few months. And let's see, yen as resurgent gloom drives bets to safe harbors. The risk-off move bolstered the safe haven yen on Thursday. Japanese currency gained against the Aussie Dollar and the New Zealand dollar due to the four-year loan business sentiment. Sterling was flat. Losses incurred on Wednesday. We already know about that. We talked about it. It's very difficult to see any kind of major risk in this environment, said Chris Weston, head of research at Forex brokerage Pepperstone, pointing to the inverted yield curve as an indicator of the sentiment. We've got a pretty clear idea what the two circuit breakers are, those being a genuine feel towards the Xi-Trump relations, and the other one is the Fed getting ahead of the curve, he said on the phone from Melbourne. We just don't think any of those are going to be triggered anytime soon, although we did just see that China said that they are talking. We've been advocating just staying in those core positions. China's onshore spot eased slightly to be weaker at 11th straight session. Dominated investor concerns is the inverted U.S. yield curve. And let me see, the biggest impact of these markets is the uncertainty. Well, none of that's new, so let's just go and move into the bias chart now. So no changes here. It's going to be, it tends to mean this 1053. Now I did have this for 1138. And now at this point, we're going to think that 1138 is a bit of a push here. And we would have to go and lower now the bias chart resistance now at 1113. 1113. Let's move it on to cable. Okay, let's go and take a look here. So we're sliding back a bit here in cable. Going into the weekend, I think the risk is for a little bit lower move. So we're going to be a support. Well, actually going to move it right to here. There's going to be a bias chart support, 2137. Okay, let's go with 2137 on the bias chart support. And as far as resistance, well, right there, 2254 for resistance. 2254. Here we go. And let's go move into the Aussie dollar. Okay, we had 67.26 and we got as low as what, 67.18. So we'll keep the 67.26 here. And on the upside, this is going to remain the same, the 67.98. And let's go move into the Kiwi. Another drop lower. We'll take a look here on the daily. Here's that line they're defending right here. I mean, they did get as low as what, but 63.08, 63.24. Hold on. We'll just call it 63 even here, 63. Certainly, I wouldn't be trying to stand the way of this thing. We just continue to drop lower here. We are above that buy chart support by about 2 pips. And on the upside, it will remain here, that huge major level, 63.89. And as we mentioned, this is still going to remain the same, although it's a little bit on the weaker side now, 33.36. We were holding it just below 30. We were actually just a hair below 33.20 when the news broke that China confirmed that them and the U.S. are talking now. We do have the S&Ps just about at the highs. I mean, we're 29.07. The high looks like we're about, what, 29 and 9 3/4, 29.09 and 3/4. That'll remain the same here. And then on the support side, that'll be here at 32.69. Let's go take a look here with the dollar peso. Now, we did have, like I said, on the peso news, we saw the dollar peso move quite aggressively. And for now, we had this 2021 high. We'll go in and keep this right here. It's going to be just called 2022 here on the buy chart resistance. We did pop above that, but it was, oh my goodness gracious, so after we're going to have to move this higher here. Yeah, it'll be 2025, although we're much lower now here. You see here we're sliding. Let's just go with that 2022 right now. And on the support, let's take a look at that. going to be right there, 2013 for some. Let's go into the dollar yen. A little pop on dollar yen on that news. Not really much to hang your hat on. There's a 623. We'll probably have to move this a little bit higher in light of that. So we'll call it. Man, you would expect to see a better bounce from that. So it's a bit disappointing. This call right there at 643. Support at 553. That will remain the same. We call 551. That's fine. But we should probably be able to push a little bit higher, I think. If nothing else, just to goose some stops. As SPOOs still maintain their bid. And I would think that SPOOs may be able to push a little bit higher as we get closer to the cash equity open. May have some people end up maybe forced out of their positions possibly that may allow this to push higher. So let's go with that 643 as I mentioned. Let's go into the cash dollar index now. Well, we're at that 98.26, and that's was resistance yesterday. It still is resistance. It's huge if they can get beyond that. And we're already pressing up against it. So we have to be realistic. Like, how much further can we push? It'd be right here at 98.36. So let's update that if they're able to push it a little bit higher. And support on the downside, we're going to stay with this 97.84 here on the dollar index. Right there. And with that, let's go into the cross rates. Dollar CAD continues to move lower here. We are seeing a little pop up in here with the Kiwi versus the Yen. Let's go and get a little bit closer look on this. Resistance is going to come in right there. If we get this yen to loosen up a bit more, maybe a little bit of short covering, 67.56. Support was going to be right there, 66.80. Actually, 66.78. There's not a whole lot of analysis when we're here on the last couple of days of August, or the last week of August trading, we're just not seeing a whole lot of movement, and this, belies the facts right here. It's right there. It's like we're just not seeing much, so we adjust these levels a little bit because we did go and see with the good news out of China that they're speaking to the administration. Then that's going to keep a little bit of the bid, so we may see some further short coverage. So pretty easy just to say, okay, there's your support right there, today's lows, and we're going to be pushing here. If we can make it up here, that it's not, like I said, saying a whole lot. As I mentioned, 67, 87, or 88. But let's go move in now to the Euro Yen. Look at this, and we're not even getting that much of a move here when it comes to the Euro Yen. This is going to remain the same, will remain the same. No changes here, especially with the weakness that we're seeing here. So 1777 on the upside. Downside, you can almost make the case a little bit higher, but you know what? Maybe the yen will somewhat slip a little bit, but let's just keep this the same here on the Euro Yen. Let's go move into the Euro Aussie. Well, same thing here, folks. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say. We're just trapped within this range here. You see, we're not really making any movement. And 6504. And here on the news right now that Conte is giving the mandate for that new government. And on the downside, same thing, no changes. It's going to be the 64. And we're not even, you would think we'd be doing a little bit fair better in light of the weakness we're not seeing. Italian president gives mandate to Conte to form a government. So it just came across this wires. Let's go and move into the Euro Kiwi. This is going to remain the same here. We did pop above it, but it's going to stay right there on the Euro Kiwi. $75.41, and on the downside, if we do press lower, 74.32. Once again, like I said, with this August trading, last couple of days of the summer, you're just not seeing any big movement. Look at the Aussie Yen. You see what I'm saying? Just a little bit of movement here as we press up against the bottom here. A little bit of short coming here. We can actually move this just a hair bit higher. Not saying a whole lot. 71.20. And 71.81 is going to remain the top end. And like I said, with this August trading, there's just not a whole lot of action here. You can see it. Let's go move into the guppy. Should be able to move this right there. No, the risk is it should be 28.91. And the upside is no changes right there. Is going to be 29.65. And lastly, let's go and look at sterling odds. We did go and press on the upside here, and that's going to remain the same here on the bias chart resistance, 81.74. And on this downside, we'll actually move this up a little bit higher here today. 80.50 right there. 80.58. I wish there was a whole lot more, what's called excitement, but we're just not moving. with these last couple of days of August. We'll go and return back into where the S&Ps are at, and also gold. You can see here S&P's holding up relatively well here. German CPI coming in 0.0% versus the prior 0.4. So just no inflation out of Germany. You can see here we're still holding up relatively well up here in the S&Ps. We did see this quick spike in gold, only to turn around and give all that back. I had the short from yesterday. I already got stopped out. I had it 43.75. But I got $5 on half of it, and then it got stopped out at 15.43 15.43.75 on the spot. Bunds looking a little bit over here on the weak side. So we're still holding up relatively well. And that's about it. Let's go and move back into the main screen. Dollar CAD has moved down about another 10 pips from where we were when we came in on at 32.95, now 32.84. But Euro continues to remain weaker. We'll see if we can push a little bit higher. 98.26 was our buy chart resistance, but we have to allow for potential to move a little bit higher, which would be right here at 98.36. Dollar Yen push a little bit higher. Resistance coming in at 106.43, and peso just paring back a little bit after that big run on the Argentinians. And that's all we have for today. And thanks for joining us here with the European Cost of Living.